Hello. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving and you're ready for another week of science. We are going to continue to talk about the water cycle this week and specific parts of the water cycle. I did find some other things that I liked a little bit better than what I've already sent home. So you'll use parts of what I sent home, but there's parts of things I sent home that you won't use. And then I'll have some more things in the office for you to pick up when you come to operetta practice today. Remember, just for Kesley only, we are practicing scene 1 at 12:40 today. So I'll watch for you to come at 12:40 to practice scene 1. We'll do that today and on Wednesday. I just want to review, since we had a long weekend, the parts of the water cycle. So we learned last week that water never leaves the earth. It's always in the atmosphere or the ocean or the land. And it's also called the hydraulic cycle, and it's driven by energy of the sun. So one part of the water cycle is evaporation, and that's when it heats up, the sun heats up water in lakes, oceans, and rivers, and it turns to a gas form called water vapor, and it rises into the atmosphere. You can kind of see that in steam in a bathroom when you're taking a shower or when you're boiling water and steam comes up off the pan. And so those are both examples of evaporation. Transpiration is when water vapor is released from plants, and about 10% of the water comes from plants. And so it works the same way. The water goes from the bottom of the plant up through the leaves, and then it leaves the leaf and goes out into the air. And so evaporation and transpiration together, both of those processes, is called evapotranspiration. And that's a tricky word to say, evapotranspiration. The next part of the water cycle that we talked about is condensation, and that's when water vapor rises in the atmosphere as it cools, which turns it back into liquid form, and it's called condensation. And drops of water will settle on tiny bits of dust and then form in the clouds. And then precipitation occurs when water in the clouds becomes saturated, so the clouds become so heavy with that water that it falls. Sorry, didn't mean to yawn. But it falls in the form of rain, sleet, snow, or hail, and it just depends on the temperature outside what it is. If it's warm, it's usually rain. If it was cold up higher, but then it gets warmer as it gets to earth, it becomes sleet. Snow is frozen, and then hail is if it's frozen really fast. If it freezes really fast, it becomes hail, which is like little ice balls. And then we talked about runoff, and that's when rain and snow fall to the ground, and some of it is absorbed and sits in pockets underground, and this is known as groundwater. And other precipitation can run downhill and directly into streams, rivers, or oceans. The water that flows into the bodies of water is known as runoff. And then collection is the water from runoff, the precipitation, and the snow melt that can end up into a collection area, which is like the reservoirs we talked about. If it's in one area, like an ocean or a lake, it's considered a reservoir. If it's moving like runoff, it's considered a transfer, and it begins again at that point for evaporation. And so this is kind of a picture that shows that it's water vapor, it's transporting through the clouds or through the water coming down the hill, and the sun heats it up and can cause some more evaporation. As it gets into the sky and it gets colder, it turns back into water, and then it will fall in some type of precipitation. This precipitation, it's a little warmer, so it's rain, but up here on the mountain, it's snow because it's a little bit colder up in that area. And the runoff goes to the stream and then eventually will end up in a collection, like a water or like a lake or an ocean, that type of thing. Okay, so this is what I'm going to send with you is I have this article that focuses on the transpiration part of the water cycle. And so I would like you to read this article. It has 2 pages, and this is the second page here, and this is the first page. As you're reading, I want you to use these symbols. So I want you to read it 3 times, and the first time that you read it, I want you to use these symbols. And I'd like them used at least once on the first page and then once again on the back. And so if it's something you know, you'll put a check mark. If it's something you have a question about, you'll put a question mark. Something new that you learned, put an exclamation point. Something important, you can put a star. And vocabulary to remember, you can circle that vocabulary. And it's okay to do it all together and do these marks together. You can even read it together and then each do your own marks, however you want to do it. But you'll read it through both sides and you'll put these marks, at least one of each kind of mark on each side. Then when you're done with that, you'll read it again and you'll look for text features. You'll pay attention to the photographs, to any kind of special box colorings, any kind of italicized words, diagrams, labels, those kind of things. So you'll pay attention to that on the second reading, and then the third reading, you'll focus on what does it mean? What does this text mean? And then we're actually going to do this transpiration experiment. Now we walked outside at the school and there was no leaves on the tree because this is kind of a bad time of year to do this. So if you happen to have a tree with leaves on it, you can go tie a bag and rubber band it as tight as you can. Our idea is to see if transpiration works. The water from the leaves will fall into the bag and we'll be able to collect it and see it. We couldn't find any leaves at the school, so I actually got a plant and we're doing it on the plant. So if you don't have any leaves, you could try it on a plant if you have one. If not, let me know and I can take pictures and show you how our plant turns out. So just let me know if you're doing your own experiment or if you want to just look at pictures of mine, and then I will send you some pictures. So after you've read it 3 times and read the front and back, you have this question thing that you need to fill out. Okay, so go ahead and fill that out. And then if you're doing your own experiment, I've sent a foldable to you, and I want you to write what time you observed it. This folds into 3, and then one of the flaps, you'll open the flap and you'll write underneath it what you noticed in that first observation. And then maybe tomorrow you'll do it again, and then the next day do it again. Remember, if you want me to send you pictures of my plant, I can let you know what time I took pictures of it. But if you can do it on your own, that would be the funnest for you, is if you could do it on your own. So that's what you need to do today. You need to read the article 3 times, mark the article, answer these questions, and do this foldable. I'll have the article and the questions and the foldable ready for you to pick up when you come to operetta practice. There's also a couple other sheets for the other days this week that I'll send to you. Let me know if you have any questions.